Well, I'm here in my garden this morning. I don't normally come out dressed like this, but it's a very special day for me because we're going to get a chance to extract the honey that my bees have been making all spring and summer long. Now, as a beekeeper, I'm absolutely fascinated by these beautiful and spectacular creatures. This year, I dedicated a whole area of the garden right in front of the beehives for growing beautiful wildflowers, and my bees have absolutely adored them. Alongside the wildflowers, of course, I've left grassy areas of the garden, and of course, really early on in the year, plenty of dandelions as well. So there's an ample supply of food for my bees to be able to get, and other pollinators that visit. Now, the hives are just behind me here. The one on this far side, number 3, I think is absolutely full of honey. So last night I had to do a series of tasks really to separate the bees from where the honey is stored. So if you take a look at the hive at the back, at the bottom, the section where there's number 3, that's the brood chamber. That's where most of the bees are, and I'm going to try to encourage all the bees, well, I have been encouraging all the bees to get down into that lower chamber. Above, we call them supers, or honey boxes, as they're otherwise known, and that is where the honey is produced, and you'll get to see that as we actually get in. Now, to encourage the bees to stay down in the brood chamber away from the honey, which makes it easier for us to extract, we've had to do a couple of things. Firstly, we get this. This is called a crown guard. It's at the top of the, well, it's almost sandwiched really in between the brood chamber and the honey boxes, and one honey box into another. And there are these holes here which the bees use to get up and get down. Now, what we put in is a porter extractor, and this slots straight onto the top. And what it does is the bees can get up right through, but they can't get back in. So they can go down into the brood chamber, but can't come back up again. There are other different options. Now, this contraption here, this is a real professional one, which is another thing that the bees can get in, but very difficult for them to get back up again. So I've left these devices on there, so a lot of the bees will already be down in this brood chamber, leaving it free for the honey. Now, I've got a few other items here. Of course, there's a smoker, and it really just, I put that just at the base, and it really makes the bees think there's a fire, so they go in, gorge themselves on honey, and get really drowsy, so it's a bit easier to work with. And of course, I've got other tools like gloves, but the main thing that I need during these things is my bee mentor and friend, Brian Donnelly here, has been helping me with bees for ages. You think we're in for a good harvest of honey this time?
Yes, if we can stop these wasps from getting to it first, David, I'm sure we can, yeah.
Well, that's the thing with wasps, isn't it? Because usually when you see wasps about at this time of year, they've got a slightly different emotion than the beginning of the year, haven't they?
Yeah, because the queen wasps are leaving the nest and going in the hibernation, leaving all the worker wasps, and they want sweetness and they want food for the grubs, so they will, if they can, get in and steal all the honey. So that's one of the reasons you'll see we start to reduce the entrances on the hive, so the bees have got less to defend.
Okay, well, let's get kitted up then, mate. Well, this is the hive number 3, which we think has got quite a lot of honey in it. So I'm going to take the top off. There we go. Oh, look, it's coming out the top even. I'm just going to put this lid over here. So you stack metal on metal, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of bees still inside there, and when we stack the frames on, there'll be a gap in between which enables you not to squash any bees, and we don't want to do that. What do you reckon on these then?
Right, where's your screwdriver, David?
Here we are. You ready to take a little look?
Let's have a look at the honey, see what we got.
Oh, here we go. You ready?
Yep.
Oh my goodness, take a look at that. I'm just going to move this over here. As you can see what I mean, I don't really want to squash any bees. So there we are. Oh my goodness, look at that, that's packed. So look at that, absolutely full of honey. What you can't really appreciate by looking at is the weight, because they're heavy, aren't they? Look at that. Brian's spotting a few wasps that are trying to sneak in here at this point, but this is going to be gorgeous. So we've taken off the 2 full boxes that has all the honey in, really. We've left one back in here really for a little bit extra food, but I've now got to replenish food for the bees, and there's quite a lot of them, as you can see here. And here we're going to use the fondant again, which is baker's fondant really, to put plenty of energy back in. So we're putting an empty super here, apart from one frame of honey for them, and Brian's just getting the fondant ready, and we're going to put the whole pack, because there's quite a few bees in this particular one. So there you go, Brian. And again, we're leaving the bag on the fondant really to stop it drying out. We don't want it to become dry and husky. We want to make it soft and pliable for the bees to be able to there we go, we don't want to squash any, to be able to easily digest the fondant that is there. There we go. And that's on the top. So the honey has been extracted. Fondant, which is food for the bees, has been replaced. It's an exchange 1-for-1. And now we're heading off to get the honey out of the frames. Right, we're now in the workshop getting ready to extract the honey, and take a look at that. It's absolutely packed, and we've got a different bits of equipment to help us do that. Brian's got a little heat gun there. So what we've got here is where the bees have actually filled it completely with honey. They put a little bit of wax just over the surface there to hold it all in and make sure it's airtight. And Brian's going to use that heat gun just to melt that before it goes into this. Now this is our honey extractor. It is a drum, and inside the drum there is a frame that holds on to these honey frames, and we slot those in and it whizzes round. And of course all the honey gets flung to the side and then drips down here into a sieve at the bottom to take out any debris, and fills that bucket at the bottom. We then take that bucket and put it into here. Really, this is the ripening container at this side. Well, that sounds simple enough. All we've got to do is do it without...
Shall we get going then, David?
Get covered in honey. Right. So Brian is just using the heat gun just to melt that little bit of wax on the outside, and that exposes the honey. So when the centrifugal force spins round in this container, that honey just flies out, sticks to the side, and then runs down. So this has been completely cleaned out.
If you're happy to do that, David, I'll put that one in.
There we go. The thing that you think about when you're putting this in is the weight. This frame here is incredibly heavy, and I guide it down so it sits within the divots that hold it into position. Now, what Brian has there looks like a very special bit of bee equipment. Is in fact a paint stripper, but it does the job. It just applies safely and even heat to be able to get in there, to be able to just melt that little bit of wax on the outside. So you can pick those up really easily either online or at a DIY store. Now this large drum here I've in fact borrowed from my local beekeeping club, which is a marvellous club. I'm in Stratford-upon-Avon, of course, so it's the Stratford-upon-Avon Club. The National Association, which is the British Beekeepers Association based in Stoneleigh, they offer advice and training courses, but it's always best to join your local beekeeping association club. And the one that I'm a member of, and Brian, you're chairman of, are you?
I am, the local club, yeah.
So I had some influence there in helping me loan this honey extractor. But Brian, you've been a great help to me all the way through, and that's the one thing you find with local clubs. You meet up with really experienced, really passionate beekeepers who can get you on your way. Now there's still quite a few bees still in here, but no worry, they'll find their way out. And what we do, once we've actually cleared the honey from these frames, we're going to put them back in a super and actually back on top of the hives, so the bees will go up there. Any honey that's left over that we haven't fully extracted, they'll take and put back down in. Thank you, Brian.
Is that 9?
in the others. I'll just have a little check. I'm just putting this one in. Now there's some weight in this drum already. Let me just make sure they're properly footed in. There's a little hole at the bottom and on the side. We've got another one, please, Brian.
Okay.
Now, I've slotted these in, but will you double check that they are sitting well in their locations?
They all look good to me, David. Yep, that looks good. Right, let's get some power on and we can start the machine. Start off slowly.
As you can see, the drum is spinning. We're not making it go too fast at the beginning. Takes a bit of time, because don't forget, honey's not like water, it is quite thick. Now, there's a little group of bees there. It's what we call bearding, really, where they all sort of group together. They don't know where they are. They're outside of the hive. And what we're going to do is, the moment we've extracted the honey, is to put the frames that we've extracted the honey from, there might be little bits left, back in here, and we're going to put all of these back on the beehive again, so any bees can find their way home nice and comfortably. And of course, I'm not going to do this now, we'll do that in the evening, because we don't want all the wasps that are about during the day to come in and try and get hold of them. So we're giving the bees a fighting chance, really, to collect the remainder of the honey and all get themselves back together again, starting to eat that fondant. Now, it's been running for about 5 minutes. Let's take a little look to see if there's any honey going to be coming out. Ready? Oh, look at that. How gorgeous is that? Now, you may have wondered what the sieve was for at the bottom. It's really just to collect any larger wax chunks or any other bits and pieces that you would normally get around the hive. And as you've seen, it's done a pretty good job, meaning what's in the bucket underneath has all been filtered out. That feels great, you know. My kids, as soon as they see jars of that, produced by our little bees, we've been watching them all year, and the flavour, scare me. That's very floral, Brian. Is that?
Yeah, that's quite good.
Do you think those wildflowers would have made that much of a difference?
It would have made a difference, David, but you've got to remember they've had the whole season from spring to summer to collect this. So this has come from your blackberries or your limes or other plants like that have flowered well before the heat of the summer burnt everything off.
But it tastes so much better from the jars you get in the shop.
Oh, of course it does, David.
Look at that. It's so incredibly good and healthy. If you like honey, you should buy it from your local beekeepers. Now, they produce it and sell it. Sometimes you see it for sale on the road. Sometimes you can just ask other neighbours to find out who produces it and go to them for your honey. The flavour is uncomparable, much better than you would get from generic brands in superstores. This is the real thing from bees that have collected from pollen in and around the area that you live. Support your British beekeepers, but not only that, you'll be having healthier and much better flavoured honey in your own home. So here's an empty frame that's just come out and all the honey's been extracted from it. A lot of the wax is still in position, so we take this empty frame and put it back in to the super here, and then we're going to take this super at the end of the evening when all the wasps have cleared off and put it back onto the hive itself. And what the bees will do is they'll come up, strip out any of the reusable material, especially the honey, back into the brood, and it will set the basis for the production of honey for next year. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share. And for more great information, visit my website, daviddomoney.com.